Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we deliver the knowledge shortcut, extracting the core insights you need from the source material you shared with us.
And today, our mission is to tackle a really big one.
We are staring down the most common financial monster and demanding some clarity. We're talking about cash flow stabilization.
That's right. This is the absolute non-negotiable first step toward building any kind of financial freedom. And to do that, we have to fundamentally redefine what that minus sign in your banking app actually means.
Okay, let's unpack this. We know a lot of you are following that strategic roadmap we've discussed before. You've done the identity and vision work.
Phase 1.
You've started the hard labor of mapping your finances, creating a conscious budget. But then you hit this roadblock.
And that roadblock is the deficit. It's that, that immediate sinking feeling when you open the app and just see your red number. And if you're there, you are definitely not alone. The sources are really clear on this. This is the standard operating environment for millions of people.
But here's the critical pivot. This is the moment of deep insight from our source material that has to change your whole approach. It's what they call the dangerous misdiagnosis.
We tell ourselves, oh, it's just a rough month, or I just need to get through the holidays.
Once that tax refund hits, I'll be fine.
Exactly. We treat the minus like it's a bad cold that's just going to go away on its own.
And that thinking has to stop immediately.
It has to, because you're completely misdiagnosing the illness. That deficit, that chronic red number, it's not a temporary symptom. It's not waiting to fade away.
So what is it?
It is a permanent structural state until you actively, surgically intervene.
That sounds harsh, but it's a critical truth.
Yeah.
The term the source material uses for this it's really powerful. It's chronic financial bleeding.
It is. It's the difference between a minor bruise that heals on its own and an open internal wound that is continuously leaking lifeblood your money day after day.
A bruise just needs time.
Right. A bleed requires an emergency room.
And this diagnosis, it leads us straight into the most common, the most destructive mistake people make when they try to fix this.
It does. It's confusing that temporary relief with actual structural repair.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, the common error is trying to close the deficit by just throwing a chunk of external money at it, a big bonus, an inheritance. Maybe you take out a small loan.
And you get the account back to zero. Or maybe even a little bit positive.
And it feels like success, right? You get that immediate jolt of relief.
A moment of calm.
A moment of calm. But that's the emotional trap.
That's an illusion.
It's a beautiful but fleeting illusion. The sources call it a cosmetic clean slate. You've basically just polished the surface, but you haven't fixed the broken machinery underneath.
And that gives you this false sense of security.
Which is deadly, because you immediately relapse. You didn't change the leaky behavior, that structural imbalance where your expenses are always greater than your income.
So the moment you refill the bucket,
the holes immediately start draining it again. It's like putting a tiny Band-Aid on a massive arterial bleed. It looks covered for a second, but the pressure just builds right back up.
And what's so destructive about this cycle is that it almost always escalates. It gets worse.
It gets much worse, because now you're not just dealing with the original spending problem. You've probably added debt to the mix, a loan, maxed out credit cards.
Which means interest payment.
Compounding the whole issue. So the deficit doesn't just come back, it comes back deeper, bigger, and faster than before.
The core truth here is that this chronic bleeding, it will never, ever fix itself.
Never. It demands active, urgent, stabilizing action.
Okay, so if we accept the diagnosis, chronic bleeding, then the next step has to be identification. We have to find the actual holes in the pipes.
We do, and the sources break this down into 4 main behavioral categories, and that's key. They're behaviors, not just numbers.
Let's start with number 1. This feels like the most obvious one, just the pure math of it all, living beyond your means.
This is the bedrock of the problem. It's that simple, undeniable math where your outgoings are consistently higher than your incomings. If you're always in the red, this is the foundation of the instability.
And until you fix this basic math,
every other financial goal you have is pure fantasy. It's hard to face, but it's the truth.
Okay, which leads pretty quickly into cause number 2. Incorrect consumption habits. This feels like the death by 1,000 cuts.
It truly is. We obsess over the big bills at the mortgage, but the real leakage often happens in those small, frequent, impulsive outflows.
Like the daily expensive coffee?
That's a classic. That habit can run hundreds of dollars a month. Or all the delivery fees, the spontaneous takeout.
Oh, the delivery fees are my weak spot.
Okay.
It's that convenience tax where you end up paying $15 just to avoid leaving the house for a $4 item.
It adds up so fast. And don't even get me
Oh.
started on subscription bloat. That is a massive area of leakage.
All those free trials that you forgot to cancel.
Exactly. $5, $10, $15 here and there, and suddenly it's hundreds a year for services you don't even use anymore.
That distinction is so important, which brings us right to cause number 3. The failure to distinguish between a true need and just a temporary whim.
And we are absolute masters of rationalizing this. A need is shelter, basic food, transportation to earn an income.
A whim is pretty much everything else.
Right. It's the momentary dopamine hit. But we blur that line constantly.
What's a classic example you see of someone rationalizing a want into a need?
The tech upgrade cycle. Do you need the brand new $1,200 phone right now, or do you just want the feeling of having the latest gadget?
Or the premium streaming bundle with every channel imaginable?
You need all that, or are you just justifying the desire to feel like you have unlimited options? If you're bleeding cash, you have to be brutal and ask, is this dollar for survival or for temporary comfort?
That brutal audit leads us right to the 4th cause, and this might be the most insidious one: status and prestige spending. This isn't about comfort. It's all ego.
These are the expenses whose primary purpose is to project an image. It's about showing off, or worse, just trying to keep up with the people around you.
You're buying external validation.
With your future stability, it's a terrible trade.
So expand on that example of the luxury car lease. I mean, some people feel they need that car to be taken seriously in their job.
They absolutely feel that. But if you have chronic financial bleeding, that huge monthly payment isn't a business tool, it's a validation bill.
You're funding the perception of wealth, not your actual wealth.
Precisely. The money goes to status, not freedom. It's the same with buying certain clothing brands or hosting extravagant parties you can't afford. It's a toxic cocktail.
And the sources are so clear on this. Without plugging these 4 leaks, any plan for saving or investing, it's just a fantasy.
You cannot build wealth while you are actively funding these habits. And that realization leads us directly to the emergency room protocol.
So what's the guiding principle here? What's the one non-negotiable rule?
The rule is simple, and it is uncompromising. Control over your money begins with stopping the bleeding. You must achieve cash flow stability first. Period.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate for a second,
Yeah.
because this sounds really strict, maybe even punishing for someone with ambition.
Go for it.
So if I finally manage to get my account back to 0, and I have these big dreams, I want to invest, I want to start my side business, are you telling me all that ambition has to wait?
That is the exact question that traps people. And the answer, according to this protocol, is yes. You absolutely must prioritize stabilization above everything else.
But why? If I can even and have $50 left over, why can't I put that into a high-growth fund?
Because if you try to invest that $50 while you're still leaking cash elsewhere, even if you're technically breaking even, but the bad habits are lurking, that investment will get sucked right back in.
So it just becomes a delayed expense.
Precisely. It's not a real investment. The next time an emergency hits or that deficit cycle kicks back in, you pull that $50 out, probably at a loss.
So you've wasted time, energy.
And you've guaranteed the cycle of failure continues. All your focus, all your energy has to go toward making sure your cash flow is sustainably positive. Stop the bleeding, get stable, then you can think about growth.
So the core axiom from this whole strategy is, without cash flow stability, there is no freedom.
You have to build your financial house on solid bedrock, not on a swamp. And that stability, getting your account sustainably positive, even by a little bit, that's the bedrock.
If you try to jump to the growth phase before that foundation is set,
The whole structure will eventually collapse.
this whole stabilization-first strategy is really validated by the personal story of the creator of this approach, Tamir Hacham.
His journey is so relatable. He was a highly skilled salary engineer for years, made good money, but had no financial education.
Just trapped in that time for money trade.
Exactly. He was stuck on a financial plateau until he was about 60.
So what was his turning point? The sources mentioned it was around age 45 after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
It was a cognitive shift. It wasn't a business idea. It was moving from thinking like an employee to thinking like an asset owner.
And that's phase 1, the identity shift.
That's phase 1. But here's the key validation for our topic today. He did not quit his job to go chase some dream. He used his steady salary as his economic anchor.
What does that mean, an economic anchor?
It means he stabilized his baseline. His job provided guaranteed, consistent cash flow. That stability gave him the mental space and the financial cushion to start learning how to build assets on the side.
Without the crushing daily anxiety of how am I going to pay my bills?
Yes, the anchor held him steady while he built the engine for his future. And the asset he built perfectly illustrates this point. He created the official Hebrew translation of the classic book, The Richest Man in Babylon.
And that became a system, an asset that generates passive income.
It did. But think about it. If his personal finances had still been in that state of chronic bleeding, he never would have had the focus, the mental clarity, or the resources to take on a project like that.
The daily crisis of the deficit would have hijacked all his energy.
Exactly. His story proves the sequence. First, consciousness and identity. Second, resilience, the stability we're talking about today. And only then, third, do you pursue growth and asset creation? You cannot skip stage 2.
So they have the diagnosis, chronic financial bleeding, and we have the treatment plan, the emergency room protocol, which is all about stabilization first.
And remember, financial independence isn't built in one dramatic leap. It's built in small, consistent, sometimes incredibly boring steps.
And you say that's actually the best news for the listener.
It is the best news.
Why?
Because it means the first step is totally achievable. Today, right now. The point of this whole deep dive is to give you back control. And that control starts with one single conscious action.
So here's our challenge to you. Find one small leak in your budget this week.
Just one.
One unnecessary expense tied to a whim, a bad habit, or status, and close it. Don't worry about the big stuff yet. Just one small thing.
It could be a streaming service you never watch. It could be deciding to make your coffee at home for 5 days straight. It doesn't have to be a massive sacrifice.
It just needs to be a conscious action.
An action that sends a message to your brain. I am now the active surgeon. I am in charge of the cash flow, not the deficit.
That one small act shifts you from being a passive victim to being the active manager in the emergency room.
And as you think about those 4 root causes we discussed, especially the crippling cost of status spending, leave yourself with this question. If your financial freedom is 100% dependent on achieving stability, what small, ego-driven expense are you holding on to right now that you could sacrifice this week to buy your actual freedom instead?
That choice, trading status for stability, is where the permanent cure begins.